Welcome back, everyone, to the Thomson broadcast booth. I'm your host. I'm Kim Kerrigan. I have a very special guest with me right now, who, by the way, is a little bit tired after a big night last night. We'll have you explain. Adam Sharp is with me, and he is the president of NATAS. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Now, it's not because you were out on some crazy wild night in Vegas last night.
No. We were not with the wildest crew, but it was a great night, the 70th Annual Technology and Engineering Emmy Awards. So many of the Emmys that we're familiar with are for those talents in front of the camera and for everything we see on the TV. But we rarely think about those who provide the tools to make it look so easy. That it would not work if someone hadn't invented this microphone, hadn't invented this camera, these lights. And so that is why Technology Emmys have been part of the Emmy competition since the very first ceremony in 1949. And we had a great crop of companies last night, so honored.
You know, I thought it was really interesting. I've attended Emmys of all sorts because I've spent a life in broadcasting. Never the Technology Emmys. You guys spend a year. I would imagine today you started researching again for who is going to be nominated and then is going to win next year, because you look into things that were in the past that have influenced what's happening today. It really is a fascinating.
And in fact, the process for next year not only has already started, but they are several months into that process. Because this tends to be much more of an academic exercise than the Emmy competitions we're used to. The typical Emmy, you have several people entering in a category, you have judges of peers who then judge on it, and there's the big reveal opening the envelope saying, and the Emmy goes to. And then four people go, while someone else goes up to collect the speech. Here, it's a lot more difficult because these technologies are, by their very definition, very complex at times. And so there is a multidisciplinary group of engineers from across the broadcasting industry who study these technologies very closely and look at how innovative they are, what an impact they've had, and what level of impact we think they may have. And that is why you see a full spectrum over the night of technologies like the first satellite news truck from the early 80s, where it's taken a while to really appreciate its impact, to honoring the founders of YouTube or the creators of the technology that make those big battle scenes in Game of Thrones. You really see all the diversity in tools and tricks that go into the process.
It was a great night, so congratulations to you and to your entire team. They put on a wonderful show, and a fascinating one at that. Interesting because it's here at NAB. Yep. You guys have not always done it that way, but this has started over the last few years, correct?
This is our second year at NAB after several years at the Consumer Electronics Show. And it has been a fantastic partnership with the NAB these past 2 years, and we're excited to come back next year. I don't think we broke too much of the stemware, so we'll be invited back, I hope. And it is a more natural fit. You know, the Consumer Electronics Show certainly is a fit for that last few feet of the equation. The tools in the living room, the TV design, and things like that. But when you get to those that you don't see, those satellite trucks, those software packages and so on, those are what are on the floor here, and those are the types of things where the world comes together in this one place to see them. So it's been a natural fit, and we're very happy with the productive partnership.
So Thomson Broadcast was a sponsor last night and got involved. Tell me a little bit about how that came about and why you see that as important.
Well, so Thomson Broadcast re-entering the U.S. market, but after a long pedigree in broadcast technology that goes back to the earliest transmissions from atop the Eiffel Tower nearly a century ago. And I think the company recognized what we just talked about, which is this is where the TV technology world convenes. That if you are going to re-enter this space and remind everyone of the innovation and engineering you provide, there's no other place to do it quite as well at NAB or the Tech Emmys, where Thomson in past iterations has taken home gold before and had the opportunity last night to remind people of that legacy of excellence.
You know, speaking of gold, and I've mentioned this to a few people who've been sitting in that chair today, but I heard this last night at the Emmys, and I've heard it periodically throughout the day, the golden age of television. That's what we're calling it right now, which is funny because I'm sure there are people 35 years ago who would have said that was the golden, or the early 60s who said that was the golden age of television. Where do you stand on that as we really enter a time where technology is very quickly changing?
Well, if this is the gold age, I have to ask, when was the bronze age? You know, we don't seem to put it in a lot of context. I do think that, without getting into choices of metallics, we are in a very unique time because we are in the least constrained time. For most of the history of television, you had a very simple equation to determine how much TV there'd be. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 3 networks. And the only way that was growing was adding a few more networks. So you'd be adding not even 200 hours a week of programming. With the birth of streaming, with the birth of new over-the-air technologies that allow us to have multiple streams of programming in that one channel from before, it winds up being almost limitless. The daytime Emmys, for example, that we're hosting in Pasadena at the beginning of May, are having their biggest year ever. More entries than at any point in their history, and a lot of that growth is in children's programming. No longer limited to just 3 hours on a Saturday morning. Now there can be great programming generated and available every day, every week, around the clock, available for children of all ages. And that creates a whole new playing field for quality television.
It certainly does. Let me go back to NATAS for a moment. Why is it important for, you guys are here, and I know you've got a booth here and you're talking to people. Why is it important for you guys to be here as an organization?
Well, for 70 years, the Emmy statue has been the symbol of excellence in our industry. It serves to foster it, it serves to recognize it. It lifts up the industry and gives us something to aspire to. So again, you walk around the floor here, you see several companies who have that technology Emmy right on their check-in table at the booth. Last night after the show, we walked through the lobby of the hotel, and they had the lobby bar there, and every table had an Emmy in the middle of companies going out and celebrating after the dinner. And so the pursuit of that, the reminder of that symbol, is what helps drive this industry to always be that much better, to always pursue that excellence. And I think in that regard, it makes it very important that we're here and keeping to push people.
I was going to say, Adam, you realize that that means a lot and a lot of pressure on you and your organization, because you have to keep that high level of that standard very high to make sure that everybody flies half a world away to come and
it's one that has to transform. You know, the Emmys were not for black and white television. They didn't go away when color debuted. They didn't go away when HD debuted. They didn't go away when VR debuted. But we have to recognize transformations in each of those technologies. You look at other academies in our space. We're the Academy of Television, the box in the corner of the room. You have the Academy of Motion Pictures, the big screen, the Academy of Records, the Recording Academy. At the time, everything was tied to the technology. But we haven't all merged into the Academy of iPhone Arts and Sciences, because frankly, if you stop on the train and someone's there deep into their iPhone and you ask them, are you watching a movie or are you watching television? The consumer knows the difference, because there's something that goes beyond the technology, that transcends the device. And we just need to keep making sure that bar of excellence is there and we don't lose sight of that.
Well, I want to tell you, I commend you. You put on a wonderful evening last night, and it was very impressive.
And thank you for coming.
Individuals who were there and who were honored, and we're so glad that you could be here at the Thomson broadcast booth with us.
Thank you for having me.
Adam, thank you very much.